So, hello and a very warm-hearted welcome, everybody. I'm Fran Rose Bullock, cancer survivor and founder of the Cancer Fitness Expert. And you're listening to the Thrive After Cancer pop-up podcast, where I'm joined by experts in recovery to bring you a wellness toolkit to support you in your cancer recovery journey. And so in today's episode, I am joined by the lovely Marcia Mercia, who is the founder of Yoga for Breast Cancer. Welcome, Marcia.
Thank you, Fran. It's good to be here today.
Fabulous. Yeah, it's great to have you. And so today we're going to really be talking about some of the benefits of yoga, how it can help with many of the cancer treatment related issues such as fatigue, insomnia, depression, anxiety, just to name a few. So I'd love it, Marcia, if you could tell us a bit about your journey and what inspired you to specialize in yoga for cancer care.
Okay, I'll try and keep this as brief as possible. So 26 years ago now, I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 32.
Mhm.
It did come, as a huge shock. I mean, as a young woman with two young children at the time, I couldn't actually believe it was breast cancer. I wasn't overly worried about it. The lump that I found, I just thought was some sort of cartilage above my rib. It wasn't really anything of concern to me. And
Mm.
then, as the investigations went on, it became apparent that the cells were suspicious, and I had to have a wide local excision to remove a segment of my breast. Initially, I was diagnosed with DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ, which is the sort of a very early stage breast cancer. Um, Once I had the wide local excision, I needed to have wider margins taken. So they didn't get clear enough margins on the wide local excision. So I had to have a mastectomy. Um, I had a subcutaneous mastectomy, which meant that I was very fortunate in being able to keep skin and the nipple. And then they put an expandable implant below my pectoral muscle.
Mm.
So the overall cosmetic result of that was really good. Um, it felt a little bit strange because it's an implant, and
Yeah.
it's that my right breast is always cold, because there's no sensation there really.
Yeah.
But I was really pleased that I woke up from that surgery and I had a bump there that resembled a breast.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they found that there was a small invasive cancer tumor there. So I was really relieved that I'd had the mastectomy.
Yeah.
It gave me peace of mind because that DCIS had gone into invasive cancer.
Mm.
So that was my journey in terms of the surgery. I was very fortunate that I didn't need chemo, I didn't need radiotherapy. I took tamoxifen, and tamoxifen was okay. I didn't have too many adverse side effects to that. So I carried on taking my tamoxifen and then tried to just resume life as a young mother with two young children,
Yeah.
which actually wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. That was when I just began to feel quite emotional, found myself crying at just random times. And I didn't know really why or what was going on. And I realize now that this was the aftermath of the diagnosis, the surgery, dealing with breast cancer and worrying about your mortality and all of that. That was all catching up with me.
Mm.
And I think having, sort of spoken to a lot of women who've been through breast cancer, it's a very, very common thing to go through once you've been through whatever treatment you need to go through, to then have this overwhelming sense of what's just happened to me.
Yeah.
um, so I was feeling that. I was, it was a struggle just to kind of get through each day with the boys and,
Mm.
do the stuff, take them to nursery, take them to school, all of that. And I just thought, I need to go and do something. I need to rebalance my body. Physically, I just felt imbalanced after the surgery. I felt tight on my right side, and mentally, I just felt all over the place and emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually went and just tried a yoga class. I went along to my local gym and booked myself in for an Iyengar yoga class. And that was the start of it. And I thought, oh, I just, those classes were 90 minutes long. I'd go twice a week.
Yeah.
And it just clicked with me. I just knew that that was going to help me. I was building strength. I mean, Iyengar is a very specific alignment focused practice that, you hold the pose for quite a long time. And it's a really good way of being introduced to yoga, I think. Although it's very strict, I think it's very good because it gives you the basis on which to then move into other forms of yoga. So for me, it was great. And that was kind of my introduction to yoga. And I've been practicing yoga, various styles of yoga ever since.
Wow.
So that's been a 26-year, and it will be a lifelong journey for me. I will always have yoga in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
and it really sustains me through all the ups and downs of challenges of life. It's there for me.
Yeah.
So that was my introduction to yoga, and then as time went on, I thought, actually I really want to share the practice of yoga with others. So I did a teacher training and became a yoga teacher. And then a few years after that, I thought, well, actually, it'd be really lovely to share yoga with the cancer community. So I did some more yoga for cancer training.
Mm-hmm.
And then more recently have trained as a yoga therapist as well. So, it's been a real journey. And I really feel that my breast cancer diagnosis has led me to where I am now. And I know that I am where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I'm really happy to be here and happy to be sharing yoga and all the sort of therapeutic benefits of yoga with both the cancer community and the general community.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And I mean, yeah, you touch on the mental and physical benefits, and it's so key, isn't it? I mean, obviously we know about the sort of physical benefits, stretching, but those mental benefits as well can, during, like you said, cancer aftermath, can be really, really one of the most important parts. And something like yoga is very calming, using the breath, meditation, all those elements, and it's just so powerful. So just to ask, obviously, when you started 26 years ago doing yoga, I assume there wasn't really anything cancer specific at that time. So
No.
what do you think is the main difference now between going to a standard yoga class and one where you've got somebody who specializes in cancer yoga, like yourself?
Well, somebody who specializes in cancer yoga has done some extra training
Mm-hmm.
um, and has learnt about the different treatment protocols, the side effects that people would experience
Mm-hmm.
after their cancer surgery, whether that's breast cancer or another form of surgery for cancer. We would know the risk factors of
Mm-hmm.
certain yoga poses and avoid them.
Yeah.
Um, so really, just sort of building a toolkit, but a toolkit of yoga poses, yoga breath work, all the different tools of yoga, in order to be able to tailor it and support the cancer community without putting them at risk. At the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, the most important thing with all of our students, cancer or non-cancer students, is keeping them safe. But particularly in the cancer community, because they're vulnerable, they might be going through treatment. They
Mm-hmm.
might be a few weeks after surgery. I mean, we always make sure that they are at least 6 weeks after post
Mm-hmm.
surgery if they've had surgery, and ensure that they get the consent of their medical team to
Yeah.
start exercising again.
Yeah.
So that's really important. But
Mm-hmm.
as a yoga for cancer teacher, we're more aware of the side effects that people can be experiencing, and especially through ongoing hormonal treatment, the side effects that they have in terms of joint pain and fatigue and
Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, it's having that awareness. So that's compared to a regular yoga class where, you might be doing some planks and downward dogs and putting a bit too much weight on your upper body.
Hmm.
That's not to say that you can't go to one of these classes, but I would always say to make sure that you tell the teacher at the start of the practice
Yeah.
that you have recently had surgery or gone through cancer,
Hmm.
and most importantly, just feel empowered enough to look after yourself in the practice. Don't feel that you have to do everything that the person next door to you on the mat's doing.
Yes. Yeah.
But ideally, yeah, look out for a yoga for cancer teacher, and there are more and more of us out there now.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and that didn't exist 26 years ago.
No.
People just had to go to a regular yoga class. But the
Mm.
beauty of it now is that there are more and more of us who are trained in yoga for cancer, and as there are in sort of cancer um, exercise specialists as well.
Yes, exactly. And I think what's so lovely for people, if they're coming to a class where they know that the instructor or the teacher has that background and that understanding, sometimes you don't necessarily need to explain yourself. You don't need to um, go into real detail, because if you tell someone you just had chemo, there's that level of understanding, that level of comprehension, which I think is very reassuring for people, and that feeling of being in a safe space where, yeah, there's no pressure to keep up with your
Mm.
neighbor or keep up with the teacher. It's all
Exactly.
about
Yeah.
listening to your
Yeah.
body and
Mm. Mm.
staying in the step that you're in, really, um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it is a process. It's not a getting back to exactly what you did
No, it's not
pre-cancer. Yeah.
it's not flicking a switch and just getting back into your routine that you were in pre-cancer. It takes time to process what you've been through and to rehabilitate your body.
Yeah.
Um, and if everybody is in that same similar situation in a yoga for cancer class,
Mm.
then as you say, they're not trying to do something that they perhaps shouldn't be doing, because everybody gets competitive. Our egos get in the way. You see someone doing something, oh, I can do that. But that's so. If everyone's in the same situation,
Hmm.
um, the class can be tailored very
Yeah.
specifically to their needs.
Yes.
And also it's a felt sense of community as well for those going through cancer, whether it's online, whether
Hmm.
it's in person. There
Hmm.
is this lovely felt sense of community, of coming together
Yeah.
and just sharing a cup of tea after the class, or even just sharing a chat online.
Mm.
It gives people a sense that they're not the only person going through what they're going through.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that perhaps sense of hope as well, because by seeing that other people are doing yoga and seeing what they're achieving, that can give a great sense of hope, of not thinking, oh, this is me forever, but actually
Mm,
look what they're doing, so many years or months
mm,
down the line, and that can
mm.
be really empowering as well.
Yeah, totally. I have a lady who has been with me now for over 2 years post treatment,
Mm.
and she still comes to the class. She is
Excellent.
my real hardcore yogi. She comes every week to the class, and each week might have some new people joining at different stages of their treatment,
Mm.
and I think it's must be really inspiring for the newer members of the group to actually see this other person who's 2 years on and
Yes. Yeah.
doing so well. So
Thriving.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I know, so you do the classes, and I know you do classes in person and online, but you said so you've recently become a yoga therapist as well, which I did myself last year. So I know a lot about it, and it's
Yeah.
absolutely fascinating, and I love it. And one of the parts I love the most is that we get to work a little bit more one-to-one with people. Do you want to
Mm.
tell our audience a little bit more about your work in yoga therapy and what that entails? So that, because I think yeah, it's still a bit of confusion about what it actually
Mm.
is.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I think yoga therapy isn't widely known, and it's becoming more well known. But I think people get confused with the word therapy, and they think
Mm.
that yoga therapy is a talking therapy. Um, but yoga therapy is all encompassing. So it's very bespoke to the individual. So most of the time I would see somebody on an individual basis, although you can actually have yoga therapy sessions in small groups if you're dealing with the same condition. So for example, if I wanted to have a yoga therapy group for breast cancer,
Mm-hmm.
that would be an option. But yoga therapy is different in terms of it not being a yoga class. So my yoga for breast cancer classes, I will lead my group through a sequence. That's the difference. So they will be practicing for the entire time, the 1 hour that they spend with me.
Mm-hmm.
In a yoga therapy session, I will be assessing the client. They will fill in a health information form. I'll ask for some background on any previous medical history, on their diet, on their lifestyle, um, what what priorities they want to, what's important for them in terms of their yoga therapy, what goals they want
Mm-hmm.
to work towards.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will set some goals. We'll set some short-term and long-term goals that we will work towards together. So it's very much a collaborative practice,
Mm-hmm.
working together to help the client achieve their goals. They have to be really self-motivated. So they have to really want to do this for themselves,
Yeah.
because they'll then be given a home practice, so a 15 to 20-minute short home practice for them to ideally do on a daily basis or as often as they can. And that home practice might comprise of, say, 4 or 5 elements of yoga. So not all poses. We might start off with some just grounding breath work, and then start to just gradually warm up the body, and then work on specific areas of the body. So if for example, if I had a breast cancer client who wanted to create some more space in their upper body and get
Mm-hmm.
some more mobility into their upper body, then I would design a practice that's going to help them to open up their arms and
Mm.
sort of get that mobility back
That
into
range of
their upper
motion.
body.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it needs to be a short enough practice that they're motivated to do it. They can fit it into their day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be taking all of that into account when I'm talking and interviewing the client, especially on that initial consultation. And then I'll follow up, and usually I see somebody for between 6 to 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then each week or each every couple of weeks, maybe it's fortnightly, we'll then review the home practice, get some feedback on what's working, what's not working, modify, add different things. Maybe they're really into using their voice. Maybe chanting is something that they want to explore. Maybe mudras are something they want to explore. So it's not all just yoga postures. It's encompassing yoga in its broadest sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I hope that's kind of given your listeners a little bit of a definition and clarity on the
Yes.
difference between general yoga and yoga therapy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you say, it's that idea of it being bespoke, tailor-made for somebody, taking into account all of their current health situation, but also even their past, in terms of their health, because there's all sorts of elements out there that it
Mm,
may not even be to do with their recent treatment. It may be something else, an
absolutely,
old
yeah, and
injury or something. And I think, like you say,
yeah,
when you're in a class, you as the teacher can't be there checking everything all the time. So if somebody is looking for that next level of, um, yeah, in interaction and care, the yoga therapy is yeah, it's just that next level, isn't it? And more, yeah,
yeah,
personal
yeah.
personal personal training, personal yoga.
Exactly. And each time we meet up, there's something new might be revealed, and
Yeah.
therefore, the program is constantly being tailored according to
Mm,
any new issues that have evolved in just day-to-day life. I mean,
yeah,
things happen, don't they? Stuff happens in life, and that's life. and
always.
and maybe they want to focus a little bit more on what they're having to deal with in the here and now. So
Hmm.
it's, as I said, it's very bespoke, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that spiritual element as well, perhaps, is a little bit more accessible again in a
Mm,
class, some teachers talk about these elements, but some don't. And I think in a yoga
mm,
therapy session, you've got more of an opportunity to speak and ask those questions about the yoga philosophy
yes,
and the
yes,
spiritual, emotional side, which can be so
yeah,
important as well on this journey.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely more opportunity to bring the yoga philosophy, the Yoga Sutras, into a one-to-one session,
Yeah,
and just help the clients also relate them to everyday life. So
yeah,
it might seem a bit like gobbledygook when you read them in the in the Yoga Sutra, but if you can actually think about something, a situation in your life that you can relate a sutra to,
yeah.
then it just makes them a little bit more kind of real.
Yeah, yeah, they can be really almost like powerful sort of affirmations and mantras that that
Mm.
people can go away and use, like you say, in daily life, and you
Yeah,
can apply
yeah,
it in whichever way you sort of see fit. But I think, yeah, it's true. Sometimes when you look at them, they don't make perfect sense, but actually as time
no,
goes on
no.
or a situation arises,
Mm,
they
mm.
they can sort of
Yeah,
transform into
and it's
this
up to us, I
message.
suppose, to interpret them for our clients so
Yes,
that they can relate to them like that. So yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So I'm just wondering then, so looking back like on your journey, is there anything that you personally would have done different in your cancer recovery, like knowing what you know now, in hindsight?
Well, knowing what I know now, I just wish that there had been cancer specialist yoga classes, cancer specialist exercise classes.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure there weren't that long ago, back in 1998. Um, so I think that would have been really beneficial.
Yeah.
I mean, however, I did feel very safe in my Iyengar class. I felt fine.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't till a few weeks after my surgery, probably, I don't know, maybe 8 weeks after my surgery, that I started practicing. So I had given myself time to heal and recover.
Mm.
Um, the one thing I suppose that I wished I was more aware of going through treatment was breath work,
Yes.
because it's so powerful.
Mhm.
The difference it can make in terms of calming down your anxiety
Yes.
and
Your nervous
calming your
system.
stress and your
Yeah.
nervous system. And if
Mm.
you're having a sleepless night and you're waking up worrying about your next appointment or your next treatment or whatever, just using the breath work is incredibly powerful. So
Mm.
I wish now that I maybe had that awareness and used that opportunity to breathe then,
Yeah.
because I certainly continue to use it throughout my life now, for lots of reasons.
And
And
it
there are
is
so many amazing breathing techniques, aren't there, in the
there
yoga practice?
are.
Breathing
There are.
techniques that will calm you down, but
Yes.
also breathing techniques that will lift your energy if you're feeling a little bit deflated or a little bit fatigued.
Mhm.
You can lift your energy depending on what you need.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I mean you may have answered my next question, but I was wondering what would you like to see more of in the cancer recovery space going forward into the future? How do you see it developing?
The recognition of yoga
Hmm.
as a practice and as a therapy.
Mm.
Um, for me, I mean, I'm biased towards yoga, and I will always say yoga, won't I? But to have um, to have that recognition of yoga and yoga
Hmm.
therapy as part of the continuum of care of
Hmm.
after cancer,
Yes.
to support patients as they progress and start to get their life back on track afterwards. And that is the time when most of us kind of get a little bit overwhelmed and think, wow, this is, what have I just been through?
Yeah.
So having these signposts to different specialists, and I'm saying, yoga, but yes, also exercise specialists, also to nutritionists and
Hmm.
physiotherapists, whatever they need. And that's the beauty of what you're providing as well, isn't it? With these cat yoga, well, with these cancer thriver podcasts that you're doing, it's incredible that you're exposing the community to different disciplines to support them.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot happening, isn't there? There's a lot, changing in this world. Um, there are new techniques, there are new treatments, there are new ways as well of recovering, and often we don't find them, we don't know about them until
Mm,
past, when we really could do with knowing about them. And
mm,
so for me, yeah, this is really hopefully a great place for people to come and have a sort of idea of what's actually available out there, and then and feel understood, and feel that there are different options as well, when it comes to
mm.
making those choices for ourselves, having that space after treatment to say, okay, right, which direction do I want to take my life now, and having those opportunities. And
Yeah, exactly.
mm,
Exactly. Because, not everything is going to resonate with everyone. So,
no.
not everyone's going to gravitate towards yoga. They might want to have something a little bit more strength training, or they might want to do Pilates, or, you know, to offer them a whole range of different options, so that they can pick and choose what
Yeah.
applies to them is wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Thank you. And so have you got it could be one or two, like sort of top takeaways, if you like, for our listeners, something that they can go away and think about, or perhaps, yeah, some if they've, been inspired, let's say, by listening to this, what should they do next? What
Okay.
could they do next?
Well, if you're tempted to try a yoga class, I'm offering a free online yoga for breast cancer class as part of
How's
my
that?
regular group. So there'll be details of how to access that through yourself. Um, I will then actually give them a phone call and just have a chat with them before they did come to the group class. So anyway, that's one option. If you're considering doing yoga, if you can, seek out a yoga for cancer specialist, ideally.
Hmm.
If you can't find a yoga for cancer specialist, then try a more gentle yoga class, try a hatha yoga class, try an Iyengar yoga class.
Hmm.
I would avoid um, any sort of fast moving vinyasa style classes or Ashtanga yoga. That's going to be too much in the recovery period.
Yeah.
It's not to say you can go on to you couldn't go on to do that later if you
Hmm.
wanted to, but certainly in the early months, a gentle yoga class.
A more
And
restorative yoga
the
class.
more a balance, you don't want
Yeah.
too much restorative, but yes, you want a little bit of restorative, but you actually want to build your strength back,
Yeah.
and you want to build your mobility back.
Mhm.
So, the practice that I teach is generally quite active. It's quite dynamic in terms of it flows with the breath. It will
Yeah.
start very quietly, it will end very quietly, but that little bit in the middle, we'll be moving and breathing.
Yes.
So, yeah, and the other option is, if you contact somebody like the Maggie Centres or the breast cancer charities, there's they sometimes they have their own specific yoga classes,
Hmm.
and you can usually access them online. So they tend to have specialist yoga teachers there as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's a good option. Sort of any of your local cancer centres,
Yes.
you could look into those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't need to have done yoga before, so don't be frightened about starting a yoga practice. You could be a complete beginner, and you will be. I can promise you, you will be nurtured, you will be looked after, and it will be very empowering because you're going to you'll take charge of your body again. And I know that for me was really important. Doing my yoga practice was me taking charge of my body again and helping it to heal,
Yes.
and that can be very empowering. So,
Extremely.
um, give it a try, see if you like
Hmm.
it, and you don't need to have any special clothes. Just wear comfortable loose clothes.
Hmm.
Ideally, have a thin sticky mat if you can have a thin sticky mat. But yeah, just give it a go and keep an open mind, and
Yeah. Yeah.
see if that helps alleviate some of the side effects of your treatment, because there are a lot of poses. There's a lot of breath work that will to help to support common side effects such as fatigue. I mean, fatigue is a really big one that
Yeah.
a lot of my clients talk about, and joint pain.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of practices that we can do that will help to support those conditions.
Absolutely. And okay, we're focusing here today more on recovery, but obviously if somebody wants to, perhaps they've just been diagnosed and they want to do a sort of prehab, or they want to continue during their treatment, you know, I, I think that, definitely speak to someone like yourself who really understands that, because it's all possible. It's just
Mm.
it
Mm.
does need to be yeah.
Yeah, it is possible
Yeah.
before, during, and after.
Mm,
Um, and you can practice with a pick line, you can practice with a port.
mhm.
There's it's yeah, and if there are any questions, yeah, I'm really happy to answer any questions and speak to anybody if they
Super.
have any questions.
Well,
But yes,
on
but
that,
yeah,
so to say,
sorry.
on that note,
Yeah,
perhaps you can tell our listeners where they can find you, and then they've got a great place to start.
of course, of course. So my website is marcie.yoga, and you can find out more about me there. And my Instagram handle is at yoga for breast cancer.
Super. I will put those in the show notes so everybody can find you. And thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to our listeners as well. And please, listeners, feel free to share this podcast with friends, loved ones, anybody who you feel might benefit. And join me, Fran Rose Bullock, very soon for the next episode of Thrive After Cancer. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Marcia.
Fran. It's been lovely talking to you.
And you, take care.
Thanks. You too.
Bye.
Bye.